The Big 12's bad offseason is not getting any better, with recent news that the Pac-12, the ACC, and the Big 10 could be looking at alliance. It begs the question, what about the Big 12? And that's a question that I want to talk about today. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all. Hop down in the comments. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you believe with the news of the possible alliance of the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big 10 that this spells disaster for the Big 12? Let me know what you're thinking there. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and I have a lot planned for this upcoming season. I would love to have you a part of this journey. If you did enjoy this content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions are massive to content creators such as myself. But with all of that being said, let's talk about this because this week, rumors have surfaced that the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big 10 could be looking at an alliance, and we should be getting more information this coming week per The Athletic. Now, this would be absolutely groundbreaking news and what it means for the future of college football, because we know the future of college football is up in the air as it pertains to which teams ultimately will be in which division. We know that the conferences are looking at having some realignments right now, but the extent of which is still up in the air. But this move right here puts that ball that was already up in the air and kicks it to an entirely different level. Because this right here absolutely forces the question to be asked. What about the Big 12? And the Big 12 is already the conference that is finding themselves in the most precarious position. Losing the two biggest brands that your conference has in both Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC is already damaging enough. And then we've seen Bowlesby going on the offensive against ESPN, and that's created a whole murky situation there. The future of the Big 12 is on bleak footing right now because there isn't a clear path in where they go. And this news of a possible alliance between the other three major conferences doesn't clear up the Big 12's path any. In fact, it creates more questions that I think need answering. One of those questions being, is it in the best interest of some of these programs within the Big 12 to go ahead and start trying to find their way out now rather than waiting and seeing what happens? For instance, and I have no knowledge of this happening. This is purely just as an example and for the cleanliness of the example. So once I get it, I think many of you will understand. A team such as West Virginia, who geographically is located closer to ACC country, would it be in their best interest to go ahead and preemptively try and get something done with the ACC so that if this potential merger and this alliance happens between the Pac-12, the Big 10, and the ACC, they have a legitimate home to go to, one with a future that doesn't look as bleak as the Big 12's. That's certainly one way to look at it, but I think we still need to remember, this is still something up in the air. This news of this alliance is still up in the air, and we're waiting for more concrete details to come out, which were reportedly going to be coming out this week per The Athletic. Now, that could change depending on what the details are, but I do want to double back because we've had information saying that there were certain teams that were interested in integrating into the Pac-12. We've heard about some different teams from the Big 12 moving to other conferences, but I haven't heard talk of that in some time, and now we have this talk that the Pac, ACC, and Big 10 could be looking at alliance. And it makes me wonder, is this alliance keeping in mind that some of these teams from the Big 12 will be moving, or is this alliance in its present capacity? But even though I don't have the answers to those questions, there is something that I still find incredibly intriguing about the whole situation. Something that I actually highlighted in my last video talking about the Big 12's precarious situation that they find themselves in. And it was something that was highlighted when these institutions were asked about the possible alliance between the Pac-12, the ACC, and the Big 10. And one of the things pointed out was that even though there are NCAA contracts, the NCAA in their present capacity is up in the air. Because we heard this summer about what the NCAA is and isn't allowed to do per the Supreme Court. And Justice Kavanaugh, in his concurring opinion, took it a step further and even highlighted how the NCAA could get hit with some antitrust legislation. And that right there, to me, with a basic understanding of the legal system, I was going into the legal world, I was working in law firms, I thought I was all set up to go to law school, but what are you going to do? With a base understanding of the legal world, to me, what that screams is that the Supreme Court is cognizant that the NCAA is on shaky ground, and they are literally throwing you up an alley-oop to anybody willing to challenge the NCAA on antitrust laws and saying, here, here's something they're violating, go get them on that, and because we have our writ of certiorari, we will bring it to the Supreme Court and we will answer those questions here in the supreme law of the land. That is what it sounds like to me. Whether that happens or not is going to be something we have to keep an eye out on. But it is interesting that that caught my attention, and it's also caught the institution of prominent individuals at these institutions, because now they're making moves with the possibility that the NCAA will not be the same in its present capacity based on legislation and court rulings, which is something that we have got to keep an eye on, because that will fundamentally shake the ground to which college football stands. But this news is already impactful enough, and it begs the question, what happens to the Big 12 in this scenario? Hop down in the comments, let me know what you're thinking is going to ultimately happen to the Big 12. Will we see the conference just dissolve? Will Bowlesby try and save the conference? Or just let me know what general craziness you think is going to happen next. That's it. See ya.